Good day. Suppose like me you're here for one last look. Perhaps you haven't heard? She's being sold, Cutty Sark, to the Portuguese. She won't be back to London anymore. She'll be bound for places like Portugal, Africa, Brazil, and all the places where they do their trading. Feels good to be on deck. Usually I'm not allowed on board, I'm a dock worker. Don't worry, I'll be on my best behaviour. I know us dock workers have a reputation for fighting, drinking and swearing, but most of my time is spent keeping body, soul and family together. Raj Fernandez, pleasure to meet you. Only stevedores are allowed on board ships in docks. Stevedores are skilled workers that load the ships and supervise the unloading of ships. When things come off the ship onto the dockside, that's when I come in. I've done well for myself over these years because I'm big, strong and reliable. I'm one of the regular workers, a royal. That means when I come to East India docks, I know there's work for me, guaranteed. I used to be a casual, which meant might work every day, might not. I'd have to go for the call on, stand on the stones as we'd call it, with hundreds of other men, shoving myself to the front, hoping to get noticed by the foreman. Let me show you what the call on's like. I'll be the foreman. Don't tell him I did this. Who wants to work and make some money? I must say, you're all so polite and civilized, I do admire that. But let me assure you, when it comes to the real call on, there's a lot more pushing, kicking and fighting. Remember, you don't work, you don't earn, you don't eat. Still, at least we've got the Dockers tanner now. That's a full 6p an hour to you. It was 4p in my father's day, it went up to 5p, and it was a real struggle to get to 6p. I'm sure you all remember the Great Dock Strike, 6 years ago, in 1889. At first no one thought we would succeed. After all, for every one man on strike, there were 10 men desperate for work. And you know what they said about the work we do? Anyone could do it. No skill necessary, only muscle and strength. Do you know they called us a mere brute force with a brute appetite? Huh. A class of labour as unskilled as the power of a hurricane? Huh. Well, they unleashed a hurricane, all right. Oh, hard and dangerous work it is. Do you know, I've broken a few things over the years. My nose once, a couple fingers. I've been lucky though. I've known of men who've been crushed under falling cargo. I've known of men who've lost an arm. They won't be coming back to work then, there were no one to look after them. They say an accident on the docks happens every 15 minutes. And we work long hours as well from dawn till dusk. Sometimes longer if the ship's in a hurry. But since the dock strike, which you lovely people helped to march on, I get an extra 2p an hour overtime, so I'm not at all upset when that happens. At the end of the day, I walk through the dock gates, but the port doesn't end there. There's a whole world that exists beyond the dock gates, that depends on the ships, the cargo, and of course their money. They call it Sailor Town. Slop shops for sailors to buy their clothes and sea boots, chandlers making rope and line, and of course pubs for the sailors to drink away their wages. If you're feeling brave enough, there's one pub I'd recommend. You might have heard me mention it earlier, it's called the Railway Tavern. But if you really want to look like a local, call it Charlie Brown's. He's the landlord and the king of Limehouse as we call him. His pub is a thing of wonder, chock full of curiosities. Shark's bones, figureheads, stuffed flying fish. Ooh, if you'd like an exotic animal as a pet, head over to Jam Racks in Sailor Town, full of them. Walked past there the other day and there was a parrot swearing worse than any docker I've ever known. But I shouldn't tempt you really. I'd be alright in Sailor Town, they know me. You well-dressed, well-to-do folk would stick out like sore thumbs ripe for the plucking. Not even the peelers. The police go down there unless they're in 2s or 3s. There are all types of unsavoury characters in Sailor Town feeding off the unwary. Get a sailor drunk and dancing and fleece him off his money in the saloons. And if he's got any money left over, the bullies and the fighting men will relieve him of it. Do you know, I once saw a sailor with no clothes on at all, red-faced on his way to cover his modesty at Rag Fair.